Good evening, everybody. So let's start watching our breath for a few minutes, and then we'll go into the visualization and the recitations like we usually do. And then today we'll be doing the meditation on love that's in the text. So in the space in front, visualize all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all the holy beings, sitting on thrones in their usual arrangement with their bodies made of light. And yourself surrounded by all the sentient beings. Then we will lead the sentient beings in taking refuge and generating bodhichitta, really looking to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha as guidance, as the only viable guidance that we have in our lives. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, by the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices. May I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, by the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices. May I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, by the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices. May I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offering, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all my destructive actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate all the virtues of myself and others to the great awakening. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strewn Mount Meru, foreland, sun and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered to you. May all beings enjoy this pure land. Venerable holy gurus, in the space of your truth body, from billowing clouds of your wisdom and love, let fall the rain of the profound and extensive Dharma, in whatever form is suitable for subduing sentient beings. Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. And then a replica of the Buddha comes on top of our head, facing the same way as us, and helps us in supplicating the merit field. Glorious and precious Guru, sit upon the lotus and moon seat on my crown, guiding me with your great kindness. Bestow upon me the attainments of your body, speech, and mind, the eyes through whom the vast scriptures are seen, supreme doors for the fortunate who would cross over to spiritual freedom, illuminators whose wise means vibrate with compassion. To the entire line of spiritual mentors I make request. Then as we recite the Buddhist mantra, first white light and then golden light flows from the Buddha into us. And remembering that there is a Buddha on the heads of all the sentient beings around us, thinking that the light and nectar flow into them as well. The white light purifies all negativities. The golden light brings all realizations. Tayata mani mani mahamani asoha. 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 So remembering the Guru Buddha sitting on our head, let's first recall that dividing sentient beings into friends, enemies, and strangers is totally uncalled for, because all sentient beings throughout beginningless time have been been in each of those categories. They're not fixed. And because those categories are totally made up by our mind, based on how people treat us, as if we were the center of the universe. So recall that feeling of equanimity generated again. There's no reason to feel close to some sentient beings and push others away and be apathetic towards the rest. And then recall that all those sentient beings have been our mothers in our beginningless cyclic existence. Not once, but many times, as we've circled from one realm to the other. So we've had many mothers, we've had a very close relationship with each and every sentient being. So bring that to mind. And then thinking of the kindness of this mother, this present life mother, or whoever it was who brought you up. Think of the kindness of that person. And then recall that all sentient beings have been kind to you in that very same way. There's no difference among them when we keep the big picture of multiple lives in mind. And really feel yourself the recipient of amazing kindness in so many lifetimes. And from remembering their kindness, let the wish arise to repay their kindness. It automatically comes. They gave so much to me, I automatically want to give back to them. So now we'll meditate on love, which is the wish for sentient beings to have happiness and the causes of happiness. So we begin with somebody that we're close to. Maybe your mother, some other dear friend. So imagine that person before you. And then think, without talking of unpolluted happiness, she does not even enjoy any polluted happiness. What she now mistakenly takes for happiness will become painful. As we all know about changeable dukkha. So she wants happiness greatly, but all the happiness eventually sours or gets lost. And wanting happiness and making all sorts of effort to attain it, she does nothing but create the causes for future suffering in the lower realms. So, due to having so many afflictions, this person that we care dearly about basically spends a lot of time creating destructive karma and the causes for lower rebirth. In the present life as well, worn out and exhausted, she experiences only misery and is totally deprived of genuine happiness. Because when she considers her future, what is there? Aging, sickness, and death. Nothing much to look forward to. And then think, wouldn't it be wonderful if she had happiness and all the causes of it? So think not only of the happiness of this life, but the happiness that goes beyond this life. May she have happiness and the causes of happiness. And then think, I will ensure that she gains happiness and the causes of happiness. So I will get involved in making this happen. And then make a request to the Guru Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do this. And then think of a neutral person, somebody you don't have any special feelings for, and think in the same way. So I'll outline it, and then you can do it on your own. Thinking first about how that person doesn't have any real happiness, how the happiness that they have eventually turns to pain, that in their search for happiness they create a lot of causes for suffering in future lives. And then generate the wish for that person to have happiness, thinking how wonderful it would be. Then may they have happiness and its causes. Third, I shall make them have happiness and its causes. And then fourth, a request to the Guru Buddha to inspire us to be able to do so. So go through this on your own with a neutral person. But remembering first that that person has been your mother and been kind to you. And then think of somebody you don't like, an enemy of sorts, or somebody you feel threatened by or afraid of, or who has harmed you. And go through that same way of thinking, that same sequence. Seeing how they want happiness and create the causes for misery. How they look forward to so many things in their life, but never have genuine happiness, nothing long-lasting. Think about how they even lack the causes of happiness, virtuous karma. And then think how wonderful it would be if they had happiness in its causes. May they have it. I will cause them to have it. And then the request to the Guru Buddha to inspire you to be able to do so. And then in response to your requesting the Guru Buddha, 5-colored light and nectar stream from all the parts of his body into you through the crown of your head. The light and nectar absorb into your body and your mind, and also into those of all the sentient beings. The light and nectar purifies all your negativities and obscurations accumulated since beginningless time. And it especially purifies all illness, interference, negativities, obscurations that interfere with ensuring that all these sentient beings gain happiness and the causes of happiness. Your body becomes translucent, the nature of light, and all your good qualities, lifespan, merit, and so forth, expand and increase. Think in particular that a superior realization of the intention to ensure that all these sentient beings gain happiness and the causes of happiness has arisen in your mind stream and in the mind stream of others. Do you feel different? Do you hit any bumps in the road?
One thing that I recognized was when on the step of allowing the thought to repay their kindness, how my mind first narrowed back down to just mother of this life. And that I had to open that back up.
Okay. So when you got to repaying the kindness, it was like, whoop, that's too many sentient beings, you know, and the mind got quite narrow. and because you remember the specific kindness of the mother of this life, and then you had to work to enlarge your scope again. Remember that all sentient beings have been kind to you in that way. Yeah?
I have the part where, of the three statements, the third one where you say, I will cause them to do
Mm-hmm.
this. And the thought comes, how in the heck am I going to do that?
Okay.
And I have to kind of remember, like, you're going to put your mind in that state, and then when the circumstances are there, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so when you came to the third part, you know, not just how wonderful it would be if they had happiness and its causes, may I do it, but I will ensure that, then your mind said, how in the world am I going to do that? You know, I can't even make my own mind happy. Yeah? And so, you know, seeing that, I think, is quite important, and it shows us that that's why we have to practice, you know, and why we have to purify and accumulate merit and really apply the teachings to our own mind, because we may wish others well all we want, but if we can't even manage our own mind, how in the world are we going to help others manage their minds? Yeah, so that's one thing. Yeah. The second thing is when it comes that point, I will ensure, you know, I will cause them to have happiness and its causes. For some people, you know, the people-pleasing comes out, and it's like, oh, their feelings are my responsibility. I'm going to make them happy whether they want to be happy or not. And I'm going to make them be happy. Yeah. And so if you're that kind of person, if you go there, you have to pull yourself back. You have to recognize you can't make anybody else happy. Yeah. All we can do is work with our own mind, be a good example, share with others, but they're the only ones who can make their minds happy. So thinking, when you say, you know, I will ensure that they have happiness and its causes, then thinking of everything you have to do. Yeah. Well, yeah, but you're trying to fix it, aren't you? Yeah. I mean, that's why the mind gets discouraged and why you get confused, because you're saying, you know, I will get involved and I will fix all of their problems, you know? And then you think, how in the world am I going to do that? Yeah, they don't listen to me, these ungrateful sentient beings. Okay? Yeah, so that's because you took a wrong step there. And that's what I was saying before. You know, saying I will get involved doesn't mean that we're assuming responsibility for other people's emotions. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing when we realize, gee, I can't do it. Where you really take refuge, you know, that step of making the request to the Guru Buddha for inspiration. Not that the Guru Buddha is going to transform our mind, you know, but thinking of our teachers and what they do, or thinking of the Buddhas and what they do, will inspire our mind so that we know that just as they were able to practice and get to that point where they could be of a lot of benefit, so can we too, if we practice, get to that point. So it gives us some confidence that we can do it, you know. But we're the ones who have to develop our own minds. Yeah, but it's very helpful to think of our teachers and the Buddhas and to request their inspiration. Okay, so you could get some feeling for the people, the dear ones, and for the enemies, yeah. But the neutral person, then it was hard to get some feeling. But when you really thought about what their life entails, which is the same thing that your dear one's life entails and your enemy's life entails, you know, that then, you know, the feeling of really wanting them to be happy comes on stronger. Yeah, yeah. But there is something else in the option of liberation and awakening.
Definitely.
But within samsara, this is it.
This is really it.
Yeah. And trying to tweak samsara is not going to work in the long term. Yeah. And that's why it's important to get out of samsara.
It helps.
Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes with the people we don't like, our mind is so habituated to, thinking, may they suffer. And this mind that says, if they suffer enough, then they'll change. They'll realize that I was really right, and that they need to change. But of course, that doesn't work, does it? Yeah. Whereas, the people that have really harmed us, to think if they were happy, then they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. And so, more than anybody, it makes sense to wish them happiness. And wishing them happiness doesn't mean that we wish that they have everything they want, because sometimes what they want, isn't good for them or for others. Yeah, this is a good point, that when you really get deep into the practice of love and compassion, then you begin to see how important meditation on emptiness is. Because without understanding the nature of reality, it's going to be very difficult to benefit others. Not only because we won't be able to lead them, but also, unless we understand the nature of reality, our own mind is going to continue to be berserky. Yeah? And so at that point, then you're seeing how to put the method aspect of the path together with the wisdom aspect of the path, why you need both of them. Yeah, well, why just having kind thoughts for others is not enough to get yourself and them to awakening. Yeah, that's good. Right, so bringing in the wisdom there and seeing they're not inherently friends, they're not inherently enemies or strangers or whatever. Yeah, and that too is important, because only when we see that they're just cause things can we then begin to think of them changing. If we think of them as inherently existent personalities, then to think of them changing so that they're happy, it's like, hey, this person's never going to change, give up. Whereas if you see, hey, this is just an appearance due to the causes and conditions that are happening right now, but those causes and conditions can change, because the person isn't some kind of static, permanent personality, then that also gives you much more inspiration, and a clearer picture of how benefit can happen. In the Theravada tradition, when they do the meditation on love, they don't have you start with a dear one, because they say that can trigger attachment. Yeah, that when we start wanting somebody who's dear to us to have happiness in its causes and imagining them to be happy, that then our mind so easily goes to attachment and favoritism and partiality. And I think there's good reason for that, because that does happen. So they usually recommend thinking first about somebody that you respect, so you have positive feelings about them, you respect them, but you're not attached to them. Yeah? So they usually say somebody like a mentor or a teacher, or like that, so where you don't have some kind of gooey emotional attachment, but it is a person that you know and respect, so it's easy to wish them well. Yeah, so they usually have you start with that kind of person. So check and see for yourself if if starting with a dear one, your mind just goes to attachment, then start more with this thing of a respected person, and then go to a neutral person. Okay? Because it's very important to keep the mind away from attachment when you're doing these meditations. Yeah. So if the mind goes into attachment, then hey, what are we meditating on? We're not transforming our mind at all. We're just back into favoritism and partiality and emotional goo. Yeah, with any of these meditations, it's good to prepare by remembering other Dharma points. Like this time here, we started with equanimity, didn't we? And we went through all the points leading up to love in a brief way and then went into love in more depth. Okay. Okay, so then for the meditation on compassion, it's the same kind of thing. Here they have you start out with a really grisly scene of very blatant physical suffering, thinking of a sheep getting slaughtered, you know, and the terror the sheep feels and, you know, what that's like. Or, you know, just think of somebody getting beheaded or somebody, you know, trying to live their life in Syria with bombs flying all around and, you know, from one moment to the next, half their family is destroyed or their house is destroyed or whatever, okay? And so they have you think of a situation of very blatant physical suffering and pain that everybody can identify with, yeah? So that makes it easy to enter into, okay? But the thing I want to caution about that when generating compassion is that it's too easy to just get stuck in thinking that compassion is related only to physical pain. And as much as you can stretch it is compassion for mental pain, but you can't stretch it beyond that, okay? Because that kind of compassion is very, very limited. And it's very easy for that compassion then, again, to go to partiality or even go to adversity, yeah? Because you have compassion, you know, we all have certain groups of people that we easily feel compassion for. Venerable Semke, you show her a suffering animal, there she's at, you know? And she feels that. Somebody else, yeah, they think of a war-torn place, they go there. Somebody else, you know, thinks of a sick person or whatever. But that, thinking of that kind of, that is the only kind of suffering that we have to have compassion for, then when you think of the people who are rich and comfortable, then you get angry at them. Yeah? Kind of, you have all this kind of privilege in your life, and, you know, here are all these people with all this blatant suffering, and you have privilege, so what in the world are you complaining about? You know, why don't you get out and help them? And you actually wind up getting angry, yeah? Without being able to consider that those people too have suffering. Okay, I mean, they do have the physical suffering we all have of aging, sickness, and death. But to really think of, you know, the dukkha, the changing dukkha, you know, and how whenever we have worldly happiness, if we have it long enough, it gets lost, it loses, it goes down, it turns into pain. We get disappointed, disillusioned, yeah? And so to be able to look at the people who we usually think have incredible privilege and be able to have compassion for them, yeah, because of this changeable kind of dukkha, okay? And then similarly recognizing, you know, that it's not just the people who have blatant suffering, yeah, that we generate compassion for. Because like I said, then when they get well, we have no compassion for them. Yeah? Or this person suffers so much from mental anguish, and then they get well, and then like, okay, I don't have compassion for them anymore. But to, again, think of the change, you know, the changing dukkha, and then the dukkha of pervasive conditioning, that just having a body and mind under the control of afflictions and karma is an unsatisfactory state, because every single moment, you know, we're right on the edge of experiencing very gross, evident suffering. And we're never really free. We're always under the control of afflictions and karma, no matter how many tap dances we do. Yeah? No matter how many people we try and fix or how many people try and fix us, without getting rid of the pervasive condition dukkha, there's no way to experience any kind of peace. Yeah? So to be able to include those other two kinds of dukkha when we generate compassion. Yeah? Because if we do that, then we can have equal compassion for all living beings. If we don't do that, then we only have compassion for the particular subset of beings who are physically suffering that we happen to have a soft heart for. And everybody else, it's like, you know? Okay, but we have to really keep opening the mind, enlarging the mind there. Okay? So remembering the different kinds of dukkha. And especially remembering, you know, and this also brings in the emptiness meditation, that we may look at people and they may look just fine superficially, but that's only an appearance. Yeah, between one breath and the next, they may go from, you know, living in Beverly Hills to being in the hell realm. Yeah, so there's no reason to play favorites there. Yeah, and how, yeah, like you said, for you it was Robin Williams, just seeing that this appearance of somebody who was rich and successful and people loved him and he was popular was nothing. It meant absolutely zero, because his own internal experience was of deep, deep unhappiness. Yeah. Yeah. And that's how it is for many people who appear to be on top of the world. So don't trust that appearance. And as they always say, be careful of who you're jealous of, because you may, you know, in thinking, I want to have their life, I want to have their life, you may have their life and then you'll see how miserable it is. Right, so how to differentiate compassion and pity? Because it is easy to go to pity, isn't it? Especially, we were taught, at least I was taught, you know, you feel sorry for people. Yeah, kind of, oh, all these poor people, I feel sorry for them. And especially people I don't like, or even people I'm jealous of, then I'm supposed to feel sorry for them. Yeah, of course I don't really, but you know, you make that up in your mind. Okay, so the difference between pity and compassion is with compassion, there's a very equal feeling. You know, here's somebody who is subject to samsaric, unsatisfactory conditions. I am too. I know exactly what it's like, and may they be free of that. Yeah. With pity, I'm up here looking down. Yeah. I'm safe. I don't have problems. I'm a together person. And here are all those other people who, either because they're really dumb or because of a bad stroke of luck, they can't get their lives put together. Bless their hearts. Bless their hearts. Yeah, so with pity, there's really a difference in status, okay? Because with pity, I'm removed. Yeah, they have suffering, but I'm beyond what they're experiencing. With compassion, we're completely equal, and I'm just as open or receptive to the conditions they experience as they are. So there's no reason to feel haughty or complacent or, privileged in any way. Yeah, so Mother Teresa's saying they don't need your pity, they need your understanding. Because also when we pity somebody else, it's derogatory, it's not really respectful. Yeah, and we should think about this too whenever we get into a thing of we want other people to pity us. Yeah, when we get into our self-pity and I want some pity for other people, to remember that pity it's not very respectful of the other person. Yeah, whereas compassion is respectful. Yeah, because with pity we're removed. We feel sorry. Oh, you poor little one. Oh, I'm so sorry for you. Yeah. Or like when we feel sorry for ourselves, that's what we say to ourselves. Yeah, poor me. The world doesn't understand. Nobody understands me. I work so hard for the world and all they do is criticize me. It's totally putting ourselves down when we feel sorry for ourselves, isn't it? It's saying, oh, but I'm a totally helpless child. Somebody needs to put my life together. That's not respecting our own inner ability at all. Yeah? Yeah, good. I'm glad. You're the star of the show. We're talking about love.
The question is who's going to sit on the desk?
Yes. Yeah. So it's true, when we get into self-pity for ourselves, we really aren't respecting ourselves or our potential. Yeah, we're infantilizing ourselves. Yeah. Yeah. I can't manage this, somebody save me. Yeah. But we aren't infants. Yeah. We're adults. We have intelligence. Yeah. Why disrespect ourselves in that way? Why not just have this sense of, look at me. I've learned the Dharma. I have the tools. I can handle this problem. It may be difficult, but I can handle it. If I really go into my practice, if I really, take refuge, I can handle this difficulty. Yeah, that's the way we need to think. Yeah, so they had the near enemy of compassion is personal distress. I can't bear to see them suffer. I'm overwhelmed by their suffering. It's just too much for me to see. And what you're saying is when that, instead of, because that's not compassion, that's personal distress. Because we're no longer thinking of the other person, we're thinking of how we can't bear to see their suffering. Okay? And so again, at that point, instead of just feeling so overwhelmed by it, like, well, I can't do anything, the suffering is just too much, to recognize that we have tools and we know how to calm ourselves. Yeah, and we need to remember those tools and to remember, oh, this is personal distress. I need to calm my own mind. I can calm my mind. Yeah, I have the tools. I know this is just an emotion that's a cause from exaggeration. I don't need to dive into it head first. Yeah. And then to learn to, watch our breath, relax our breath, open our mind to others. Again, it's the same thing of having confidence that, yes, I can manage my own mind. I'm not going to fall apart at the seams. I'm not Humpty Dumpty who needs somebody else to put me back together. I can prevent myself from falling apart. And even if I'm a little bit cracked, I can, put myself back together. Yeah. Okay, I think having that kind of self-confidence is very, very important. You know, because if we don't have that self-confidence that we can manage it, then people can give us advice from now and until the next 3 countless great eons, but we're not going to put any of that advice into practice because we're operating on the assumption that we cannot handle our own mind. So then it's not a question of I need advice from somebody else, it's I need confidence in my own ability. Yeah. Can't we? Yeah. Okay, where are we? Okay, any other questions or comments? Anybody online? Oh, it's Chinese. Oh, so are they not online?
I don't know, maybe not even.
If they miss Dharma teaching on account of Chinese New Year, then what reason is it for me to alter my schedule to teach them?
You have to tell your whole family not to visit you on the second day of Chinese New Year.
It's the third day.
Third day.
It's the third day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And certainly for an hour, you can say you're busy and go to, you know, Richard and Jolene's house, and they won't find you there. People have to be able to give up a little bit for the Dharma. Yeah? I mean, you too did. You gave up Chinese New Year to come here. That's fantastic. You know, I mean, it really shows that you have deep refuge in the Dharma, and that the Dharma is going to make you much happier than chatting and gossiping and eating a lot. Yeah? So I think that's quite good. I wonder if they're going to listen to it afterwards and hear what I said. Okay. Okay. So then, when we meditate on compassion, like I said, so just make note of these, and then in the week, you know, lead yourself in the meditation. So first, to imagine somebody who's in dire physical straits and they're suffering, and you know, and imagine their anguish, and then, you know, go through the 4 things. Wouldn't it be wonderful if they were free of this kind of gross dukkha and its causes? May they be free is the second one. I will cause them to be free, or I will ensure them that, you know. And then 4th is, Guru Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do this. So start out with somebody with, you know, like here they said the sheep, you know, who is getting slaughtered. Okay. From there, go on to take as your object people who have not hesitated to commit a variety of negativities and non-virtue. So here they specifically list people who have used the Sangha's belongings carelessly, observed ethics poorly, abandoned the Dharma, held false views, or harmed sentient beings. So think of somebody who's creating, you know, horrible negative karma. And then think, you know, due to their actions and their conduct, they're unhappy in this present life. Without a doubt, they're going to be born into the lower realms as soon as they die. And once born in the lower realms, they're going to have to endure all sorts of intense suffering for extremely long periods of time. and then think, you know, I wish they were free of dukkha and the causes. May they be free. I will cause them to be free. And then the request to the Guru Buddha. Okay, so that can be very helpful, you know, when you think of people who are creating really horrible negative karma, and how unhappy they are in this life, and how, because of having so many wrong views, they don't realize that they're creating the cause for more and more misery after death. And that once born in the lower realms, it's so difficult to get out of the lower realms. So difficult, you know? And so to really think about that, you know, and the situation of the other person, and develop compassion for it. Yes. It's difficult to get out of the lower realms, isn't it? Yeah? Yeah. You see? Yeah? Somebody tries to teach you Dharma? Yeah? So it's very hard to get out. Yeah? Okay, so do that. You know, with somebody who's created a lot of negative karma. Okay, and then from there go on to somebody who's a very dear one and think the same thing about them, you know. Here specifically it says, having made all kinds of effort for the sake of this life's concerns and labeled others as friends and enemies, they are subject to both manifest dukkha and the dukkha of change. And think about that with the people you care of who don't know the Dharma, or even people you know who know the Dharma, but they don't take it seriously in their lives, you know, and how their lives are just, you know, labeling people friend, enemy, and stranger, helping their friends, harming their enemy, and how they're subject to manifest dukkha and the dukkha of change and pervasive conditioning dukkha. Okay. As such, they never have a moment's peace. Being involved in wrongdoing in this life, virtuous states of mind hardly ever arise in them. As a result, the moment they die, they will take a lower rebirth and be obliged to undergo various kinds of intense misery for long periods of time. It's true, isn't it? Yeah. No matter how much we love and care for somebody, or admire somebody, or whatever, yeah, if they don't have any awareness of karma and its effects, and if they don't try to, you know, abandon non-virtue and create virtue, then this is, you know, kind of what lays in store for them. Yeah, to greater or lesser degree, you know. But sometimes this can be very challenging when we think of people that we really know and care about, you know, and think of it applying to them. It's much easier to think of it applying to some stranger we don't know. Oh yeah, they don't know anything about karma and its effects, so, you know, they make all kinds of effort for the sake of this life's concern and label others as friends and enemies, and, you know, help their friends, harm their enemies, they never have any peace. Oh yeah, all these other people, you know. But to think about it in terms of our old friends and our family members, yeah, it's much harder. But it's very important, because when we do, then we get a much stronger feeling of compassion and of feeling, you know, wow, I want to be able to do something about this, because it's really unbearable to think of the people I care about, you know, walking on the edge of the cliff of the lower realms. Yeah, they have so much now, but you know, in one breath, will they have that? You know, or will they be separated from all of the happiness of this life that they have? Okay.
Maybe a question online.
Okay, hold on for a second. And then, so after you do that for a dear one, then do that for a neutral being. And then after that, for enemies, people who threaten you. And then finally, for all sentient beings. Okay? So do this in the upcoming week. Okay? And remember to start with equanimity and, you know, go through the other meditations briefly beforehand. Okay.
Can I just ask, what is manifest dukkha?
Manifest dukkha is pain, physical and mental pain. Dukkha means unsatisfactory experience. Sometimes it's translated as suffering, but suffering isn't a very good translation, because suffering, we always think of pain, but when we have dukkha, we aren't necessarily having overt pain. Okay? Okay. And if you want to go into contemplating compassion more, then you can pull out an open-hearted life, yeah, or living with an open heart, and look in there. I mean, there's really, well, the whole book is about compassion, yeah. So there's a lot in there. And we tried very much to, at the beginning, talk about what is compassion and what isn't compassion, because there's often so much confusion about it. And people sometimes think that if you're really compassionate, then you're just a walkover, you know? You're the doormat, because you have so much compassion for everybody that you can't stick up for yourself, you can't say no to anything. You know, you have so much compassion that you can't point out anybody's faults to them, even if it's going to benefit them. Yeah, so that's not compassion. That's not compassion. You know, I've been working on Precious Garland, Nagarjuna's teaching to this king, and in the 4th chapter, which is the one I'm working on now, it's about royal policy and how to run a kingdom. And Nagarjuna starts the chapter off by saying, you know, you're the king, and people don't know what a king will like and dislike and how much a king will tolerate. So even if you make mistakes, they're not going to say anything to you, because they're afraid that if they offend you, maybe you'll imprison them, or you'll, you know, execute them, or who knows what. So because you're this powerful king, people are not going to speak directly and honestly to you. So it's very difficult for you to receive accurate feedback and good advice. Yeah, this is the suffering of somebody in a position of authority, is that nobody wants to speak frankly and honestly to that person. Everybody just wants to please that person out of fear. Okay? Which means that those people don't really have compassion. Yeah? Because if they had compassion, they would put their own self-interest aside and think of how to benefit this person. So that's what Nagarjuna says at the beginning of this chapter of, this is standard fare for kings, is nobody says anything that they don't want to hear, but I have affection for you and I also have concern for sentient beings, so I'm going to speak to you frankly and honestly, and even if it's unpleasant, please try and listen, and if it's true, even if it's unpleasant, take it in and put it into practice. Yeah, and so then he proceeds to, give instruction to the king about how to run the kingdom. Yeah, which I'm sure nobody has ever talked to the king like that before. But Nagarjuna really clarifies his motivation, I'm saying this out of affection for you, out of concern for others. Yeah, so with real compassion. And he also, says, I'm just a mere monk, so how dare I speak this way to a great lord of the world, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah.
There's another question online. Someone asked, and compassion is not practiced out of guilt.
Oh, that's very important. Yeah, compassion is not practiced out of guilt. If you think of compassion, if you're guilty, and then you think you're going to be compassionate because you feel guilty, like, I hurt that person's feelings, and I feel so bad about it, so now I have to make it up to them, and I have to become a people pleaser, right, and do everything they want, and then they'll forgive me. Yeah, again, that's not compassion, that's people pleasing, and it's motivated by guilt. Yeah, so compassion has to be motivated by a genuine wish to see the other person be free of dukkha and the causes of dukkha. Yeah.
We have guilt from privilege too.
Yes, sometimes we have guilt from privilege.
And then think that if we are philanthropic or whatever.
Yes, yes. I have so many advantages this life. That's unfair, so if I give away everything, then somehow I'll make up for it. Okay? Actually, in the book, Nagarjuna is telling the king to give everything away, but not motivated by guilt, not motivated by privilege. We're motivated by privilege in the sense of seeing. He tells the king, you have all this wealth because of generosity you did in a previous life. If you aren't generous now, in your next life you're going to be bereft. He says it point blank to the king, So, okay.
And another question. Someone asked, with spontaneous compassion, one enters the bodhisattva path. Is that spontaneous love and compassion, or just spontaneous compassion?
Say that, start the beginning again.
So with spontaneous compassion, one enters the bodhisattva path.
Oh, no, one enters the bodhisattva path with spontaneous bodhicitta. Okay? So compassion is different from bodhicitta. Okay? Compassion is the fifth step in the seven points of cause and effect. Compassion is the fifth, wanting sentient beings to be free of suffering and its causes. After that is the great resolve, wanting to get involved. After that, the seventh one is bodhicitta. When we have spontaneous bodhicitta, that's when we enter the bodhisattva path. Okay? But causes of bodhicitta are love and compassion. Okay? So they're always stressed as the causes of bodhicitta. Does that answer the person's question? Yeah. Okay? So again, being a bodhisattva, having compassion, doesn't mean that you're Susie Cream Cheese, or that you're the fairy godmother, or Tinkerbell, or the tooth fairy, or Okay. Huh?
Santa Claus.
Santa Claus, yeah. Okay. Huh? What do you have in Chinese culture?
The wealth, the deity.
Oh, the wealth deity. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Is that one of the three that you have usually in the kitchen? No?
It's the one that they believe that will bring a lot of money, prosperity to the family.
Okay. Yes. Wealth deity. More important than Buddha, huh? I'm joking. Okay, yeah?
When you have spontaneous bodhicitta, then you will not give out any sentient being or so give up on compassion.
Yeah, but you have to have love and compassion and bodhicitta towards every single sentient being to have spontaneous bodhicitta. If you give up your bodhicitta regarding even one sentient being, then you slide back. So at the very beginning of the bodhisattva path, somebody's bodhicitta isn't stable, so that's possible for them to lose their bodhicitta and slide back. Once they get to the second or third stage on the path of accumulation, their bodhicitta is more stable. That doesn't happen. Okay, so let's dedicate for all the sentient beings, no matter who they are, no matter how they treat us.
May the spiritual
Teachers who lead me on the sacred path, and all spiritual friends who practice it, have long life. May I pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. May the lives of the venerable spiritual mentors be stable, and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of Losang's teachings dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 3 worlds always increase. Ratna mandala kamnayatayami. Due to this merit may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May the born have no decline, but increase forevermore. In the snowy mountain pure land, you're the source of good and happiness. Powerful Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezig, may you stay until samsara ends. May the deeds of explaining and practicing the Dharma, done by groups supporting the teachings and their holders, who spread the view of dependent arising and non-violent actions in the 10 directions, and especially at Sravasti Abbey in the West, flourish.